There's been a lot of word online that Sony is about to release the A7 V. And I'm here to tell you that I honestly think that Sony peaked at the A5000. 5 years ago, Sony really led the charge in the camera industry. Now, today, even the mention of them potentially re-releasing a sensor from the 4 into the 5, a lot of people are starting to doubt the company's success. When I look at Sony's recent releases, there hasn't been much that's been released in the last 4 or 5 years that has been truly monumental. The A7S III is still the choice of a lot of professionals that are sticking with the Sony system. A lot of people have shifted to Lumix, Nikon, Blackmagic, Fuji. Fuji's autofocus is getting a little better. They're starting to lean more towards video. I can only imagine that Sony is definitely feeling the squeeze in that sense. Now, when we're looking at the A7 IV, this is a camera that they ended up using that sensor several times with other cameras like the A7C II. It was an all right camera. I mean, the autofocus was stellar. It had a lot of features, but wasn't really that exciting of a camera. I think one of the reasons why people are really on the fence with Sony these days is they have a really long track record of not supporting cameras just months after release even. They just seem to kind of forget about the older model and then move on to the next. And that really rubs people the wrong way, especially when you sell a premium camera, for example, like the A7S III, and then you don't support that camera and you give a lot of updates to cameras like the A7C II. And I'm happy that I've moved on to companies like Nikon and Fujifilm that seem to do a lot better when it comes to supporting their cameras down the line. I found it a little funny, around the same time that the news leaked of the A7 V, they announced that it would be getting a new sensor. It's 105 megapixels with 100 frames per second. But I don't think the people that are wanting A7 V are interested even in the slightest for a 105 megapixel camera. I don't know about you, but I don't have the space for it. Well, I'm sure a lot of you realize that my opening statement, I'm just messing with you all. I don't think A5000 is the best camera ever made, but I ended up getting my hands on one and I figured it'd be cool to make a video, messing around with it, do some sort of vlog content and see exactly how well this camera does. This old Sony is a pretty interesting camera. It has 25 frames and 60 frames per second in 1080p. For whatever reason, it's missing 30 frames. Not sure why. It's not a great camera, but it's one of the smallest ever made. I think around the same size as the 5100. The screen on the Sony A5000s have one of the best screen designs I've ever seen in a camera. I've never actually owned a camera before with this flip-up design, and I'm not sure why a lot of companies have phased it out for the traditional flippy screen. Which one of you was trying to call a bird during nesting season? It's pretty impressive that this camera from 2014 has 20 megapixels in it, and it's the size that it is. Olympus is still currently releasing cameras with only 21 megapixels, so it's pretty good for its age. I'm really curious though, with this 8-bit video, 1080p footage, how much sensor data will I be able to retain when I go into a somewhat overcast position, like here, like on the G85 that I just reviewed. Can't get it back any of that footage, but I think this does quite a bit better than the G85. Obviously there's no stabilization, so I'm sure this footage right now is pretty shaky and maybe not all that great to watch, but I'm using two hands now, holding on to it on a pole, and it probably will be half decent to look at. I don't know. What do you think? I've talked a lot about Sony full-frame cameras while recording me on this APS-C, but where are the APS-C cameras? The 6700 being their last flagship APS-C camera, it's been a while. It was a pretty groundbreaking camera at the time, but it's been so many years now, a lot of other competitors have outpaced them and at the same time released cameras for much cheaper. For example, like that Fuji XM5, a really great valued camera, for next to nothing. The irony is not lost upon me that I'm talking about Sony innovating cameras when using an A5000. But the truth is, a lot of you probably don't even need a new camera, and you'll probably make do with whatever you have. I think a lot of times the right decision is to just elevate your skills with what you have rather than trying to constantly chase the latest and greatest camera. It's just, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. We need 8K. No, forget 8K. 10. Minimum. 12. Why not? So I've had this Sony A5000 for about 2 weeks now, and I actually really enjoyed my time with it. It's really impressive the sort of content you can make with such a small camera. I think I like the sensor quite a bit more even than this G85 I reviewed last, especially in higher contrast scenes. It seems like you can retain a little bit more of the image data, which is always nice. But yeah, all in all, this is a pretty cool camera. I'm actually using right now one of my Voigtlander lenses, my Voigtlander 21mm 3.5 lens. This is a lens I've had up on Marketplace now for, I want to say like 9 months. I haven't had a single message. Oh, sorry, I had one message, someone wanting to buy it. What's up with people out there not wanting to buy Voigtlander lenses? But all in all, it's a pretty good camera, especially for its size and the year it was released, which makes me really wonder, like, how good of a camera do you really need? I've done a color calibration chart to just see how I can sort of manipulate these colors, because I'm not really a huge fan of Sony colors for the most part. And that was one of the things I found when I owned my A7C II, is that I just really didn't like the images straight out of camera, and I really had to do a lot of tweaking in my RAWs in order to get them where I wanted them to be. So I'm hoping with the color checker passport that I'm able to kind of nip that in the butt. I'm still planning on probably selling this camera. I already have an XM5, so I don't really need it, but it's been an impressive little camera to test and kind of see how exactly it operates. My exposure right now, have some zebras. I set them to 90. I'm not sure if that's too high. If I should have set that to like 80 or something. Let's see. How overexposed am I? I will see in the footage later on, but all in all, pretty sweet camera. There are no mic ports on here, so I'm using the DJI Mic 2, and I have a Rode Go attached to it. I think I'm overexposed now. I'm gonna dial back the aperture. So that's how I'm recording the audio, and then I'm just syncing it in post. All right, well, thank you for whoever has watched this till the end. Let me know, what are your thoughts on Sony and why they haven't been releasing as much recently? Thank you so much for watching. I have affiliate links in the description. Please buy through my links, and I would greatly appreciate that. Anyways, take care. Thank you. Bye.